Up, though, Detroit. It is Wake Up Woodward. Thank you all for starting your day off with us. We appreciate it all the time. All of the support, all of the interaction, all the engagement, all the laughs, all of that, man. Need you guys to get those mailbag questions in as well. Please. Smash that like button as always. Encourage a friend to do so as well. The phone lines are open. 313-552-6322.
Shout out Shift God in the chat. Shout out Mike G. Big Con 51. Chef Talks NFL. Gromit 237. We got some OGs in here. We got some great new members of the chat. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you all.
I just want to remind you guys, I know the Pistons have been having a difficult season, but we are lucky enough to be joined by Woodward Sports Network's credential beat writer and reporter Kool-Aid, who has some exclusive access to this team. You've seen them over the last 2 years. You've seen some struggles, but you've seen them start to do some things recently also that maybe give you a little bit of hope. Talk to me a little bit just about the vibe, the aura, as the kids are saying these days, at practice yesterday.
Yeah, listen, man, being able to kind of talk to Monty Williams, who seems to be at a little bit more ease with this current construction of the roster, and it's only been 8 games since the trade deadline, but he seems to really, really like kind of the fit of these guys, and more so the hustle and the defense. And it's just by the eye test, you look at this team and you could tell they're hustling a little bit more. They're doing things that look a little bit more like the identity of Detroiters, and that's what you want to see. Obviously, wins is what you want to see most importantly. But as it relates to being able to get this team there are steps in that, man. And I have noticed some things here. I was able to kind of talk to Isaiah Stewart about that as well.
I'm excited to hear that.
About what the new guys have kind of brought to the table and if it has reinvigorated them. And I got some stats that prove this, not just from the team overall, but even Cade Cunningham. You want to talk about a reinvigoration of a player. This guy, and I'll tease one of the stats, has jumped from
his
offensive efficiency before the trade deadline, fast forward, right? He was in the bottom 350. Now he's in the top 50 since the trade deadline.
Nice.
That's crazy, but we're going to talk about it. But first, let's get this question into Isaiah Stewart.
I know you guys got a lot of new players at the trade deadline, but with that, it seemed like an improvement in hustle and defense. What's been your thoughts on what the new guys have brought, as well as some type of reinvigoration for you all?
Oh yeah, it's been great. Like I said, I feel like the new guys, they're all playing hard. They're cheering for one another, which is important, and having everybody, be happy for one another and just hooping. Just going out there, playing defense. I love how the new guys you got are, trying to hang their hats on the defensive end, and obviously with offense that will come. But I feel like defensively, the guys we got, definitely sticking their nose in there and getting dirty.
Love that question, Kool-Aid. And while some people might think, why do you have to ask professional athletes about hustle and doing the little things, the things that maybe don't show up in a stat book? To me, as a more casual fan this year, you got the exclusive look. What I noticed from a young team earlier in the season when they couldn't buy a win was they weren't hustling. They weren't out hustling the other team, I should say. They weren't winning those 50-50 balls. And those, you can be a bad team, but you can't let that happen if you're younger, more energized. This team had too much hope to be the less energized team. So I love to hear that. What was your takeaway from what Beef Stew had to say back to you?
I think one of the most key statements or phrases in that is, I love how the new guys, when you hear that, he's already talking about and putting a differentiation between the players that were here before and the players that are here now. And what was the biggest difference? The veterans. You look at what Bojan's doing. You look at what Alec Burks is doing. New York Knicks fans, they're like, yo, do these guys play any type of defense right now?
Are they pissed?
They're pissed.
Wow.
They think that they got a little bit fleeced, man, because, you're paying Bojan Bogdanovic not just this year, but next year, $20 million. He's still in the books for next season. Alec Burks was a player that they thought, hey, he was here before, maybe we can re-sign him. I don't think that that's going to be the case. He's averaging under 10 points per game, and the defense is looking very, very shoddy. They got rid of a lot of the veterans, a lot of the people that Monty Williams in a lineup would love to be able to rely on, and now they've brought in guys like Simone Fontecchio, who's played fabulous. You want to talk about swapping out a Knox, swapping out a Bojan Bogdanovic, swapping out an Alec Burks, and really giving those minutes to Simone Fontecchio. He's just been way more efficient. He's played a lot better defense, and he's shot the ball. He shot the lights out the ball, man, from behind the arc. And those are the types of things. When you look at Beef Stew, there were other questions asked to him as well about, do you kind of like the way that the NBA is being called? ball right now. He's like, you know what? If they're going to let us play physical, of course I do. And he believes it has a lot to do with the players that they have right now that makes him more confident in that. And look, to take a page out of Mr. Sam Flannel Reynolds' books here, I do got some stats to back up that the Detroit Pistons are taking a step forward, man. Steals per game is up from 5.8 to 7.1 per game. That's last in the NBA to number 22 in the NBA since the trade deadline. Since the trade deadline versus the beginning of the season up until February 8th, the rebounds per game were 43.2 up to 45.8. That's number 16 in the league up to number 5 in the NBA.
Nice.
The defensive rating, and I wrote an article about this. What's the difference between where the Orlando Magic are right now with their rebuild, relying on young players, and the Detroit Pistons? Their offensive ratings are largely the same, but the defensive rating, the Pistons were dead last in defensive rating at 122 per game.
Sheesh.
Do you guys know where they are right now, or where you think they rank in the NBA since the trade deadline?
Probably like 24th, 25th.
They
Top 10?
rank 16th in the NBA right now since the trade deadline in defensive rating. They're down to 114.8, which is similar to what the Orlando Magic have. If they started the year like this, you're looking at a much better team.
Yeah.
Their field goal percentage, their field goals attempted, they've gone from 17th in the NBA to 5 in the NBA, which means they're getting up a few more shots per game, which is increasing their pace. And what I really liked is, these new players, not only did they help to improve what Detroit's doing on the defensive end, hustling, getting the steals, getting out on fast breaks. They look to be a faster team. They look to be more just fundamentally sound defensively. Not only did that help the defense overall, but Cade Cunningham.
Talk to me.
Since the trade deadline, and I'm telling you guys, Cade is him. His offensive rating has gone from 107.8, which was number 385 in the league, to now 120.2 offensive rating, which is number 47th in the NBA.
That's a big
This
jump.
man has had over 340 spot jump in his offensive rating since they've given this man a little bit better shooters, a little bit better defenders. He doesn't have to do as much. His usage rate, we kept saying he cannot be at a 30.0 usage rate. You need to get that down really to like 23 to 25. It is coming down now. He's at 28. It's dropped a couple points. Field goal percentage from 44% per game up to 55% per game since the trade deadline.
That's big.
3-point percentage, 33.9 up to 46.2, and his rebounds jumped up about 1.5 as well. You're looking at a absolute kind of renaissance as it relates to how this team is playing. And when you look at their record over the last 8, it stinks that they're 2-6 in the last 8, because 2 of those losses could have easily been wins. When you look at the New York Knicks game and when you look at the Orlando Magic game, they could be 500. And you know who they've largely played? Playoff teams. The Phoenix Suns, the LA Lakers, the LA Clippers, the New York Knicks, the Orlando Magic, the Portland Trail Blazers. These are the teams that they've played over this stretch of games in which, realistically, if things were called the right way, you're looking at a team that's been 500 since the trade deadline. And all of the numbers are trending towards the Detroit Pistons, realistically, finally, at least at a foundational basis, doing the things that have always been the underpinnings for a successful Detroit Pistons team. It should give you a little bit more hope as it relates to where this thing is going. Now, I get it. People want to see a little bit better out of the rotations from Monty Williams. People want to see better out of Troy Weaver. He's not resolved from criticism here.
Yeah.
You waited this long to be able to bring in the right types of players to surround these guys. This should have been from the beginning of the season. That's just point blank,
And
period.
it's still not complete.
Yeah, what you talking
And
about,
it's still
brother?
not complete.
Yeah, it's not. They got some steps to take. They have some serious steps to take, and I don't believe it's on the players any longer. When you see kind of your star, your leader in Cade Cunningham respond very favorably to the moves that have happened, it's not because now all of a sudden he say, okay, let me play. No, his usage was up to 30.
Yeah.
He was playing. He had the ball in his hands. But when the whole entire defense says we can crash on this guy because we don't trust anybody else on his roster, then that's a problem that front office has to fix and they have to solve. And going into the next season, don't rest on your laurels. We want to see these players take a step forward in their development, but go out there and grab a couple players that you know can contribute on both ends of the floor. The guys that they traded out, you look at their defensive efficiency, it is trash compared to what they have right now. I don't know what they were looking at prior, because all this stuff you can easily look up. You can easily look up. I don't know if they just thought, hey, in the offensive league, we're going to go out there and have a better offense than other teams. We'll get Bojan, Alec Burks, get some of these guys that can shoot some threes. This is Detroit, baby. That has never been how it's done. And you look at this, they made a move to improve the defense, and their offensive efficiency improved as well.
Isn't that a weird concept?
It's a weird concept,
And like you said, this isn't the finished product. This isn't the team that's going to be in the playoffs one day, but this is the foundation. Some of these players they brought in are just resetting almost the floor where they're building that culture. It's not. I'm not going to compare it to the Lions quite yet. Like that takes some time, but just in terms of developing that type of culture, that gritty mentality, that going to work Pistons mentality. Even if they're not on your roster next year, you at least need those guys like Fettuccini, like Simone Fontecchio, who can play 3 and D. Not just 3. You got to have a D.
And Simone is confident. Fast forward, boy. Simone Fontecchio and Quentin Grimes, these are 2 guys that are highly confident. You see them kind of walking around the gym, and you can tell these guys want to help bring this team to winning. They feel like they're wanted now. The New York Knicks kind of shelved Quentin Grimes. The Utah Jazz, in his RFA year, his restricted free agency year, just say, hey, we're not bringing you back. He's saying he wants to put down roots here. And that's what you want to hear. That's what you want to hear about the guys that are here. Not only do they want to be here, but they want to do it the way that Detroit does it as well. A couple other things. I think we got the video of Asar Thompson we could play as well.
Would love to see that.
He's trying to expand his game right now. I believe, and I've been saying this since the beginning of the year, if you want to get the best out of Asar Thompson, your number 5 draft pick, you got to get him busy in the mid-range. Earlier in the season, his shot did not look as good. It looked a lot more line drive. He has a little bit more arc to it now. He's a lot more consistent, even in practice as well. And honestly, I'm telling you guys, in the beginning of the season, it was all three-point shooting. Now they're getting him out and doing a little bit more dribble drive moves, mid-range moves. You know his pet move is when he kind of puts his back to the basket in the mid-range and he does a little turnaround. He seems to be really, really comfortable with that. But these are the types of things that he was going through yesterday. And it's really, honestly, a good thing to see.
Yeah, I love seeing him develop the mid-range. And, of course, over time in the long run, we want to see him improve his three-point shooting. But in this year 1, let's just see him get comfortable making some baskets, seeing the ball go through the hoop. We've been talking football for so long over the last couple months, but you think about the difference in the levels that having a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta in the middle, needing that deep threat from Jamison Williams or any deep threat, just to spread out the field. It keeps them honest in the middle. If you need the same thing in basketball too. You need someone to control the mid-range or at least be a threat, especially someone like Asar Thompson, who's such a good cutter. He's so athletic. If he can cut, if he's just going to go to the hole every single time, you can prepare for that. You know what's coming. But if you have to worry about him catching and shooting just from the free throw line, that's one extra split second that you got to take to think. Maybe that's a flinch forward from a defender that allows him to get to the basket, or he starts making that shot at the elbow. I love to see it. Yeah,
because what it does is, especially if you can be efficient with that shot, and trust me, the mid-range shot is probably the least efficient shot to take in all of basketball.
It's a low start, man.
Yeah, but it's a start for him, especially if that's where he's comfortable at. And when you get him into the middle, I think his eyes actually get more big about getting to the rack. And one thing that I've heard make a return kind of to the media availability from Monty Williams is now he's talking more and more about the 0.5-second offense. It was more difficult for them to do that with guys like Bojan Bogdanovic, Alec Burks. Kevin Knox was pretty decent at it, but now that you can rely on these young players who actually have the athleticism, they have the speed, they have the desire, they have the legs, they can actually run this offense a lot better, and we're seeing that improvement.
Explain, because we touch on all the sports, and some people are basketball experts in the chat. Some, maybe this is new to them. Explain briefly, what is that offense you're talking about, or Monty Williams' philosophy?
Yeah, the 0.5-second offense was supposed to be an offense where you make up your mind or your decision, even before you get the ball, because you know the play. You know that you're going to pass, dribble, or shoot. Decide to do one of those things within 0.5 seconds and get into it. But you have to have kind of highly efficient players. You have to have players that have the skill set. You have to have players that are fast. You have to have players that can dribble the ball. You have to have players that are athletic. And when you look at kind of the previous iteration of the Pistons, they just were not skilled enough. Now they have guys on this roster that have been drafted within the last 1 to 4 years. That's about it. All the veterans are gone off this team. 1 to 4, 1 to 5 years. That's this entire team. And these guys are hungry. This is what we wanted to see to start the season. And I do believe that the veterans on this squad actually crippled them to start this year. especially with Monty Williams, when you know that's what he wants to play, but it didn't necessarily mesh with the style of offense. When he brought the 0.5-second offense to the Phoenix Suns, it actually dropped Devin Booker's usage rate, but it improved all of his other stats, similar to what we're seeing out of Cade Cunningham now that they have the right types of players to fit that offensive system.
I love to hear it. I love to hear it. Did you have any other clips to play or anything to talk? Or since you were just talking about, is it you in 0.5 seconds you want to pass, shoot, or dribble? What's that called in basketball?
Triple threat.
Triple
You
threat.
guys see it up there. Broder, man.
Real talk,
Quick
though.
with it, bro.
Triple threat. It literally in basketball means when you get the ball, you want it in position where you one move, you can either dribble, you can shoot, or you can pass. So you want to catch it, put it right here in, some say your pocket, some say your elbow. Everyone has their philosophy, but it allows you to do one of the three things. So that's kind of a lead into our next segment, which is a brand new segment from Mr. KG in the sound booth.
I got high hopes for this segment, too.
This is fun. We have no we have no idea what he's about to throw at us, except for one hint of one question. So we'll see. KG's going to introduce it next. But until then, I'm going to tell you about Dispo.
That's what
I'm going to tell you about Dispo.
High
Because
hopes for this next
if you're
segment.
hungry, you want some munchies, you go to Dispo.